I used to come to the park to do two exercises, chin-ups and push-ups. One day I actually hurt my elbow. I was doing something else, showing off, and I thought, the conservative thing to do here is to lay off. Just do one of the exercises that won't hurt me. I know, the push-ups will be fine. So I did the push-ups that day and not the chin-ups. And then it occurred to me, why am I doing both on the same day? Why don't I do them on consecutive days? Because I'm going to get pretty much the same result with half the effort.
I'd like to be able to tell you about these discoveries without boring you with all the numbers and sequences and times of a gym routine. So I'll try to stick to the principles, and I hope to avoid that dull side of the topic, chronic, literally. Almost as dull as watching the weights going up and down. But you know, every so often you have an epiphany in this otherwise unconversational practice. You become strangely excited and you feel like passing on the spark. So I'd made this decision to switch from doing lifts every day to doing them every second day. That halves the volume. Now, if you're doing it for fitness, is that actually a good thing? Since when is doing less something to brag about? How could that be a good idea when you're trying to achieve more? Aren't you supposed to strive harder, longer, faster? I think it was actually faster, higher, stronger. Yeah, quitius, altius, fortius. Let's not worry about that. Oh, the excitement is that the outcome of my new routine has so far been quite encouraging. I did just say that I don't want to bore you immediately with numbers, but the thing is that you can actually measure your performance by how many reps you do. Reps, that's the number of times you repeat an action. The way I train is basically to do a lift till I can't manage another rep. That moment when you try but you can't clinch one more rep, that's called failure. And the idea is to get as close to failure as you can without hurting yourself. I could do 8 chin-ups, but the 9th was hard to finish elegantly and I would have failed a 10th. But since I decided to do chin-ups every other day, that number has gone up. Far from getting weaker as a result of halving the volume, I'm actually getting a wee bit stronger. By the end of the video, you'll see that I'm now getting 10, occasionally even 11 reps on the chin-up. The improvement in the push-ups is maybe a little less impressive, but it's reassuring enough. And I was doing something like 20 or 22 before when I smashed them out every day. But now that I do them every other day, it's more like 24, sometimes 25. And now that I think of it, actually it's a similar increase in proportion. So this is a really good story. But now I've got to say that this great discovery of mine is nothing new. People have known about it for a very long time. It has a name. It's called a split. Gym enthusiasts might do, say, like a push day and a pull day, or a leg day and an upper body day, and so on. And the reason a split works is that you don't get so fatigued by punishing your whole body, but you can concentrate on just one muscle group and work that to failure without being compromised by contrary lifts with a different muscle group. If you do them both, they make a double claim on your stamina, and you end up unable to dedicate full effort to either one of them. They fight one another. I'm convinced now that the gym tradition is right. Instead of trying to do push and pull both on the same day, I have a day for pushing and a day for pulling. On a push day, I'll do push-ups in the park, and then half a morning later, when I no longer feel exhausted by the push-ups, I'll do squats, the lower body, Let's not complicate the story with what I do when I get home. You might say, well, does it really matter? If I do both lifts on the one day, surely I'm getting a heap of exercise. In fact, as we said, twice as much exercise as I'm now doing with the split. The old system of both every day seems a lot braver, and I didn't do badly following that more relentless program. But why it might matter, leaving aside any issues of efficiency, is that the last reps are described as the growing reps, the ones that you grind out at the very end of your capacity, just before failure. They're the ones that apparently increase your strength and build muscle. So if I can't face that 10th chin-up because I've just done a heap of push-ups, or I can't face that 24th push-up because I've done a whole heap of chin-ups, I'm depriving myself of potential to grow and gain in strength. It's all very well and good, but I confess that I'm still a bit conflicted. When doing both lifts on the one day, I could actually control the exhaustion. All that I needed to do is extend the period of rest between the two lifts. I'd spend time talking to our greyhound or fraternising with gregarious dog people in the park. All good procrastination anyway. And that way I could recover and come at another set with renewed vigour. There's no rule, and a lot of it gets down to personal preference. It's actually fun to refresh yourself between lifts, wandering around, talking to people if they're up for it. That more languorous style casts the whole thing as leisure. You blithely saunter from thing to thing without a sense of haste because you're cooperating with your physiology, which is also why I like to do bodyweight exercises in a public park. It's the kind of calm escapade that you could do on a holiday. But at the same time, there's something equally satisfying about just doing one exercise. It means that I have a whole lot less to dread every time I turn up at the bars. It's just one thing to concentrate on, and then I feel free to go. I'm not by nature very anxious, but maybe I do experience some discomfort hanging around a park that isn't fundamentally designed for adult fitness. It's hardly a commercial gym dedicated to working out, where people can pace around and consult their phones between sets, where they never appear to be loitering. The good thing about a park is that it's free and there's fresh air, but the downside is that I'm always a kind of interloper. No one expects an old man to be pumping body mass, no matter how discreet and unentitled he tries to be. It isn't exactly a scandal, but at the same time, the spectacle of an old codger doing gymnastics on children's play equipment isn't exactly blessed by convention. So it might be an advantage to go in and out. Micro workout, done. No fuss, see you later. But getting back to my point of departure, just because it suits me, it doesn't mean that the abbreviated regime is the right thing. With fitness, there are so many decisions about what's best. Resistance training is riddled with scores of options about how much, how hard, how long, what range of motion, what variety. For a lot of people, fitness seems to be beyond them, not just because it seems physically hard, but because it seems bewildering and mentally fraught, full of puzzles about the right way to go about things against the wrong way, how everything that you do could be inefficient or useless or even dangerous. It's daunting, and perhaps for such reasons it's understandable that people opt for walking instead. But for me, there's a special charm in the conundrums of figuring out a good routine. It suits me that so many choices are in my hands. I like to persist with a routine, but I'm also happy to make changes to it. It happens quite often. Maybe every month I get a new intuition about how I could try something else that might work better, and I then adhere to that initiative. So there you have it. I started off confessing that I felt a sports injury coming on in the elbow after I went rogue, showing off my gymnastic prowess. But after feeling the need for a day's rest and instituting that elbow moratorium thereafter, look, here I am with the possible happy promise: train smarter and do less for more gain. Well, we'll see how progress goes, but whatever happens, and whatever proves to be the right idea or the wrong idea, I do feel that if I'm evaluating and juggling all the possibilities, that's empowering. And I don't experience the workout routine as such a burden. It isn't an imposition, but something with room for creativity and growth, in the sense of increasing consciousness as well as increasing strength.